Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Braun, and I'm the Executive Director of the Saskatchewan Flax Development Commission. I'd certainly like to welcome everyone that's participating on our first ever webinar. We're going to be talking about rebooting the flax industry this morning, and I'd certainly like to thank the partners involved, which are the Flax Council of Canada, Manitoba Flax Growers Association, CCAN, the University of Saskatchewan CDC Centre, and ourselves, the Saskatchewan Flax Development Commission. We also have with us as partner the Crops Branch at the Government of Saskatchewan. How this is going to work today is that we're going to have four presenters: Will Hill, Helen Booker, Todd Hyra, Dave Sefton, and we also have with us Venkata and Penny Eaton as our technical staff. I'm going to introduce these speakers one at a time, and we've allocated 30 to 40 minutes for the actual presentation, and then another 15 to 20 minutes for questions, and we should be finished within the hour. This webinar is being recorded, and we will have it posted on the Saskatchewan Flax website and the Flax Council website for download if anyone's interested after the program. You will notice on your screen, if you see the Go to Webinar Control panel, there's a box labeled Enter a question for staff. When you type in your question, it will come to Penny and myself, and we will then direct that question to the appropriate person to answer. So only the presenters have the ability to speak on this presentation, so please feel free to use the question and answer, or the question on your website, to send us your communications. This is our first webinar, so we do thank you in advance for your patience as we all become familiar with the technology. First, I'd like to introduce Will Hill. He's the president of the Flax Council of Canada, and Will is one of the lead on the rebooting the flax industry, and Will provide some overview of where we come from and where we're at. Will?
Great. Thank you, Linda. It's certainly a pleasure to be here this morning. I think a good place to start is to roll the clock back to 2009 when trace amounts of CDC triffid were found in shipments of flax to Europe. Triffid was approved in Canada and the U.S., but was not approved for food, feed, and environment in the European Union. Triffid also was never commercialized in Canada, and as a consequence, shipments to Europe were halted. That led to the implementation in 2010 of a testing protocol, which allowed shipments to resume to the European Union. And although not at the levels that we've currently seen, or we're seeing in 2009, shipments have resumed to the EU, but as I said, at much lower levels than we had seen prior to the triffid event. This testing protocol has continued on export shipments and railcar shipments, and it was also expanded to include the current farm stewardship program that most farmers have had experience with, where we do test the planting seed going into the ground, the production from that planting seed, as well as, I've said, railcar shipments and in-store stocks in Thunder Bay that are destined to Europe. That protocol continues and will continue right through the Reconstituted Seed Plan, which we will be putting in place and we'll be talking about today. Maybe the next slide. Great. In terms of the farm stewardship program, the farmers are asked to submit a 2 kilogram sample to CGC-approved labs and for use in a 40 by 60 gram seed test. All the labs are listed on the Flax Council website that you see on your screen today, and we also ask growers to check with their current grain handler about preferred labs that they would like to use for these tests. The tests are for farm seed as well as for production are the same, use the same protocol as the seed tests in the export markets. Maybe the next slide, please. In terms of the test results that we've seen on Triffid, we've seen a remarkable reduction in the amount of positive tests that we're seeing in the samples that have been tested for Triffid. We've seen a reduction on the grain side from about 10% of the samples testing positive down to a current level of about 4%. In terms of farm-saved seed, from 14% of the testing positive to about 3%, and in terms of pedigree seed, from 7% of the samples submitted testing positive to the point where in the past 2 years we have no positive tests for Triffid in certified seed. And that's what leads us to the point that we are today, where we have confidence that our certified seed is virtually totally free of the Triffid event, and that's what's leading us to promote the use of certified seed going forward as the best method to ensure that the seed going into the ground is totally Triffid free. In addition to these tests that indicate that the amount of tests testing positive is lower, we're also seeing the amount of Triffid in the positive test has been reduced significantly as well. So both of those trends are very positive, and now we're turning our attention to go the final step that has the best chance of reducing the amount of Triffid in the crop as close as we can get to zero.
Thank you very much, Will. Our next presenter is Dr. Helen Booker with the Crop Development Center, and Helen's going to talk a little bit about the actual reconstituted seed process. Helen?
Good morning. Next slide, please. We tested our breeder seed at the 0.1% level in late 2009, and we did not detect Triffid in our breeder seed stock. In 2010, a new test was introduced, and we tested at the 0.01% level, and we found some trace levels of Triffid in our breeder seed. At that point, we sent a memo out informing the industry of our findings, and we also undertook to reconstitute our breeder seeds of the major varieties out there, which are CDC Bethune, CDC Sorrel, and two new varieties, CDC Sanctuary, CDC Glass, and we have reconstituted seed of Vimy coming back from our winter nursery this spring as well. Next slide, please. So the process we undertook is normally we grow long rows, and these long rows are bulked to produce our breeder seed. But we always keep back a little bit of each long row in case we need to go back and reconstitute that seed lot, which is what we did. So we went back into the four varieties, CDC Bethune, CDC Sorrel, Sanctuary, and Glass, and we grew up the remnant seed in the growth chamber at the University of Saskatchewan. Then we sampled tissue from each individual plant and sent it to a lab for triphid testing. So the plants that were negative for the triphid test were used as a seed source. And so the seed source was then sent to our winter nursery in New Zealand. And it was grown there on land that had not been used for flax production before. And that material came back to us and then became the seed source for our long rows, which we grew in Saskatchewan at a CCAN member farm, just pretty close to Saskatoon in Delisle. His farm was flax-free. It was a century farm, and he had not grown flax on his land, so we could be pretty sure that there was no volunteers on his property. So that material was grown, was harvested by the CDC. We used equipment that had not been used for flax before on our farm, and we sent that seed to New Zealand, and that production was then managed by CCAN. That came back to us, and then we cleaned up the seed, and with our distributor CCAN, that seed was then distributed to the seed growers across Western Canada last spring. And it'll undergo 2 years of multiplication, and then in 2014, the fall of 2014, the seed will be ready to sell to farmers. And there should be about enough seed to plant over 1 million acres of flax. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Before we move on, I would just like to remind people that any of the participants, although you are on mute, we are certainly inviting you to pop your questions when you go to that GoToWebinar panel. There's a box labeled Enter a Question for staff. When you type in your question, it will appear to us, and then we can direct that question. So if you're having questions as we go along, please send them in, and we will address them at the end. Again, thanks, Helen. I'll turn it back to Will to talk a little bit about why it's important that we're doing this for the flax industry in Canada. Will?
Thank you, Linda. Although a lot of our attention has been focused on testing and on controlling the triphid event, I think it's important that we don't lose sight of the fact that the positives for the flax industry globally are very, very important here. And it's really a positive time for the flax industry in total. We've seen the production of flax rebound from the 2 weather events that we've had in the past 2 years, and that increase in flax production has given us the opportunity to participate in the global marketplace. Global exports are increasing, and they're being driven by human and animal health and nutrition benefits that flax conveys. There is a growing awareness of the benefits of omega-3 and other properties that are in flax that will benefit human and animal health. Flax is becoming a mainstream food ingredient, and we've really been moving flax out of the arena of a health food market into mainstream food incorporation, and that's very positive for global demand for flax. There's also a growing awareness and concern over fossil fuels and environmental sustainability, and that is driving a large amount of research dollars into the use of flax as a replacement for fossil fuels and as a big part of the bioeconomy. And then, of course, we've seen improving global conditions over the past 5 years, and that's also helping to drive demand. Most of our exports today are being shipped to the United States and China. That's a big change from past times when the bulk of our exports were shipped to the EU. But we have to recognize that the EU does represent about 40 to 50% of world imports, and it's important for us to be in a position to be able to exploit those markets. In addition, the triffid event is something that we don't want to have in our crop, so it's also good practice to do what we can to eliminate that event, because that event is only approved in Canada and the United States.
Thanks, Will. Let's talk a little bit to CCAN. We have with us today Todd Hyra, and Todd will explain the CCAN members working on the reconstituted flax supply. Todd?
Good morning, everyone. The two important parts of moving forward are the keys to success are having CCAN members follow a supplementary agreement, and I'll get into the details of the supplementary agreement in a second. But we wanted to make sure that all of the extraordinary steps that have been taken by the Crop Development Center were not lost, and have reintroduction of triffid once the material returned to Canada. So two steps are having the CCAN members follow a supplementary agreement. The second important step is having the adoption of the new seed supplies by flax growers through widespread awareness to make sure that all of the old stocks are flushed from the system. Next slide, please. So the keys to the supplementary agreement that was signed by all CCAN members who received the reconstituted seed supplies in 2012 and then again in 2013 was a rotation that went above and beyond normal flax seed pedigree requirements. And so in 2012 there was a 5-year out of flax requirement, so no other flax on that land prior to 5 years. For 2013, that's a 3-year out of flax, and no other pedigreed seed, no other flax other than pedigreed seed production allowed on those farms. CCAN members have agreed to sell off all of their current inventory of CDC Bethune and CDC sorrel so that they can move to the new supplies of the reconstituted seed for fall 2013. And they've also agreed to ensure that the equipment that they're using on their land has not been used for seeding, harvesting, anything else other than pedigreed seeds, so that complete traceability is available. At the end of this selling season, we will change the names of CDC Bethune and CDC sorrel to CDC Bethune 14 and CDC sorrel 14, so that customers are aware that they're purchasing the reconstituted seed supply. And the CSGA will no longer allow the pedigreeing of old lots of CDC Bethune and CDC sorrel at that time. CDC Sanctuary and CDC Glass were never introduced in the marketplace, so no 14 designation is required on them. They are new to the marketplace with the launch of the reconstituted seed.
Thanks, Todd. Next we'll move to Dave Sefton. Dave is a director of the Saskatchewan Flax Development Commission, also sits as a board of directors for the Flax Council of Canada, and has been one of the producer reps on the whole committee that has been dealing with the triffid. So Dave will speak on behalf of Manitoba and Saskatchewan growers.
Thanks, Linda. Good to be here. So now to the crux of where we're going, the rebuilding of the flax industry. This season, we're still telling producers to use certified seed as the best practice. For 2013 and 2014, we're asking that all other varieties of flax other than the 4 reconstituted varieties, that in one of those 2 years they purchase new certified seed to plant. For the reconstituted varieties in 2014 when they're launched, if you are utilizing those varieties, we're asking that all the seed be planted be the reconstituted CDC Bethune 14, sorrel 14, Sanctuary, and Glass. There's the reason for doing this is that we need to relaunch the flax industry, and we need your help in getting the producers to make sure that they follow this recommendation. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps? We're looking at a communication plan, and you will become a vital part of that communication plan with your interaction with flax growers to make sure they understand the reasons we're doing this, so that they understand that the ultimate goal in doing this is to get to a point where we may not have to test any longer for the European market. And we want to regain the confidence of the European market so that they will accept untested seed from Canada, because it's now as close to zero as we can possibly get. The other main feature is that we need to flush out all of the old material. As Todd said, the seed growers are being asked to flush their system, so they no longer have the unreconstituted CDC varieties in their system. And we need the commercial grower to also do the same thing. During the crop season of crop year of 2013, we need to make sure that those stocks that producers are holding get flushed out first, and we're also asking them to start selling their oldest stocks first so that we move through the system and get all of those stocks out. That's absolutely critical to make sure that message gets out, as well as the message of purchasing a new certified seed for planting season 2014 of the reconstituted varieties. And if you're growing the non-reconstituted varieties, that you repurchase certified seed, because we know it's at zero during the crop seasons of 2013 and 2014. Thank you. Next slide.
Thanks, Dave. We've been working on the reconstituted seed program for almost 2 years now in terms of the communications plan. The CDC and CCAN have been working, of course, for quite a few years now on reconstituting that seed and developing the program so that we are able to move forward with rebooting the flax industry. I just wanted to let people know that for those of you that are extension specialists, agronomists, if you're looking at where to get further information, if you're interested in the communications program or how we can talk to producers, please give the Flax Council of Canada, the Manitoba Flax Growers Association, or SAS Flax a call. If you're interested in more detailed information on reconstituted seed rollout, feel free to contact CCAN. And if you have questions on the agronomy or on any of the work in terms of planting flax, please see the oilseed specialists in your province. Anastasia in Manitoba will certainly help out those growers in Manitoba, and I know Vinketa here in Saskatchewan has already been busy answering a lot of flax agronomy questions. You can also go to the websites of our individual organizations for more information. And at this point, I'd like to thank the presenters, and I'd like to move right into the question and answer period. And we do have questions coming in fast and furious, so that's great. The first question I would like to direct to Todd. And the question is certified seed available in the spring of 2014 or in the fall of 2014?
The certified seed, the second year of multiplication will be this summer, so fall of 2013 for spring 2014 planting. Seed will be available.
That's great. And I think somebody wanted to confirm the variety names of the reconstituted varieties. So again, Todd, could you review that?
The 4 varieties that will be available for reconstituted seed for fall of 2013 are CDC Bethune 14, CDC Sorrel 14, CDC Sanctuary, and CDC Glass.
Thanks, Todd. The next question is, using these enhanced protocols to multiply the reconstituted varieties in 2013, means that there's limited acreage available to seed growers on which to plant their seed this spring. We're also looking at farmers and potential for flooding and this excess moisture and how that might impact the supply of reconstituted seed. Todd, would you like to take the first?
It's yes. So we're the uncertainties of spring 2013 with excess moisture are certainly a concern. It will impact all seed supplies beyond just the reconstituted seed, because if commercial producers can't get on their land, seed growers won't be able to get on their land. But we'll wait and see. I'm confident that we're going to see some sun shining, and we'll see a rebound and getting the acres in the ground that are necessary to take care of the crop.
Okay, so if the seed multiplication goes on as planned, we understand that there is enough reconstituted seed to plant about 1 million acres. What percentage of the reconstituted seed might be those 4 varieties? Todd, would you like to?
100% of the reconstituted seed are those 4 varieties. So all of the seed that was brought back from New Zealand as reconstituted seed supplies in spring of 2012 was planted out and grown in 2012, had good yields with that material. We need to show the signals to seed growers that there's demand for this product, and so that is an important next step, is that flax producers communicate their desire to purchase the reconstituted supplies so that seed growers ensure that they get the acres in the ground to cover that demand.
Thank you very much, Todd. The next question will be addressed to Will. And Will, the question reads, with Russia and Kazakhstan growing more flax than in the previous decade, is there really a need to regain the EU market?
It's true that, in fact, those Eastern European countries are growing more flax, but I think there is a desire by customers in the EU to have an alternate supply of flaxseed. They are currently experiencing some difficulty obtaining seed or the quantity of seed that they need from Eastern Europe because of the crop problems that they've had in that region over the past year. And I think there is a desire for them to get to a more balanced supply of their flaxseed needs. From a Canadian perspective, I think it behooves us to look at a market that's that large. It's 50% of the global imports, and so I think as serious flax suppliers, it's a market that's just too big to ignore, and I think it's important that we continue to do whatever we can to have access to that market. And that doesn't mean that we'll supply 100% of their needs or 80% of their needs as we have in the past, but I think it's a benefit for flax growers to have access to as many markets as possible and not limit our potential for exports.
Thank you. The next question I will direct to Dave. Dave, the question reads, should we spend more of our time on the breeding, on growing bigger, faster varieties than that could compete with canola?
Thanks, Linda. I guess that's a $64,000 question or a $64 million question. But I guess in answering it, what I would say is, as Will had indicated earlier, we have a supply of flax that had a triffid trace in it. It was only approved in two marketplaces, Canada and the U.S. So irrespective of of Europe, we still needed to get this triffid out of our flax supply. So that was the decision made, not just for Europe, but for our other markets as well. Should we be looking at increasing the yield? We do continue that. We have other projects ongoing, such as the Northern Adapted Flax, where we're looking at yield potential increases that may not be as large as where we've got to with canola, but certainly will bring flax a lot further up the yield chain than what we are today. And we're also looking at the CBIS project, which looks at a herbicide-tolerant type of flax that, as we know in the canola industry, boosted the yield quite significantly because of the ability to take out the weed competition early in the growing season, which is a major yield booster to any crop. So I guess in answer, we had to do what we're doing in triffid in order to assure that we stay in the marketplace, not just in Europe, but on the world market. But we haven't abandoned yield increase. And all of the breeders, that's their #1 goal, and we have 2 new breeding programs that hopefully will lead to a fairly significant yield increase for flax.
Thank you, Dave. Another question is, would there be any comments about certified seed from other breeding programs like Viterra or Ag and Ag Food Canada? And I would address that question to Will. Will, are you there?
Thank you, Linda. Thanks, Linda. In terms of the other programs, specifically related to the triffid incident, as I indicated earlier, there was never an indication that the breeder seed of those varieties contained any amount of triffid, and with our current tests that we've done over the last 2 years, where we have had no positive tests for triffid in the other varieties of seed, that's what gave us the confidence to go towards having a certified seed only type of program for flax moving forward, and why we're recommending this course of action to flax growers.
Thanks, Will. The next question is there a publication or fact sheet that could be used by the industry to always be put in front of producers and from all angles having the same message? And I will address that, and then I'll also ask for Will's comments. But the industry, since the triffid event happened, has had a communication strategy, of which Manitoba Flax, Saskatchewan Flax, the Flax Council of Canada, and all of our producer members and trade members have certainly been involved in developing a strategy to create an awareness and an understanding of what's happening in the industry and what do we need to do to address or resolve the issues. And from our perspective, Sask Flax and Manitoba Flax has, at their producer meetings with industry communiques, a lot of articles on the website, programs such as industry conference calls where we invite the public, the farming public, webinars such as this are all being used to try and create the awareness. And we've also been utilizing, or we know that it's getting out from some of our advertising materials by the number of calls that we're receiving from producers related to reconstituted seed. Will, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think if I would just reiterate the fact that we do have a strategy in place and the ability to make communications available. As we start to move forward with the program, we'll continue to update that information and get more information out to the farmers, outlining where we're at. In the meantime, there is, as Linda said, extensive information on the websites. We'll endeavor to keep that information current, and that's a very good source of information. And then, of course, you do have the local associations and the Flax Council that are open to have phone calls and answer your questions as they arise, either on the phone or by email.
Thanks, Will. Todd, did you have anything to add from your awareness program with your seed grower members?
Yeah, we can, I'll just give a quick comment on that. We continue to communicate internally within CCAN with our grower network in terms of our meetings that are held twice a year, as well as email communication and written communication to keep them informed of the requirements of the supplementary agreement, as well as follow up with members that haven't been growing flax to make sure that they're aware that if they do wish to grow flax, all of the details of the supplementary agreement.
Thanks, Todd. The next question I will again direct to Todd. The question is, how can you be sure that the cost of the reconstituted seed won't go through the roof?
One of the main things we can do is have an adequate supply. We have, at the moment, there are over 50 individual CCAN member growers producing reconstituted seed, and it's been 2 years in the marketplace as they've had 2 full cycles of production. There are competing products available from other breeding programs, so we do have material from Agriculture Canada within our lineup. And so within our network, we really have perfect competition that would allow customers access to the retailer of their choice. And we're confident that because supplies will be widely available, that prices should stay in line between reconstituted material and any other certified products.
Thanks, Todd. I guess we'll go back to there was the question earlier about breeding and increasing yield. The second phase of that question was, is there a way that we can put desirable oil traits into another oilseed like canola or sunflowers, and would that then, what would that do to flax? And I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm getting that question actually correct, if I'm understanding it. But I think, Helen, would you like to address that in terms of traits adding to other oil seeds, or would that be one solution?
You mean changing the oil profile of sunflower or canola to mimic flax? I'm not sure what the questioner is asking, but they did that in flax. They changed the oil profile from a high linolenic to low linolenic flax using mutagenesis, and the same approach could be taken in other oilseed crops as well.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Then, Keta, would you like to address that one?
Yes, Linda, I think it's a perfect question because we have seen in the oilseed market that there are changes happening, and even if you look at canola industry, they are getting competition from soybeans as well, where they are going into the high oleic soybeans, and that's going to be the stiff competition for canola this year. But if you look at the oil profile of flax itself, it has very unique oil profile compared to everything else, and it's not just the oil you have to look at when you're looking at flaxseed. It's also the combination of other things where there is fiber, there's lignan, and there are peptides, which have a lot more value in the seed than you could see in the other oil seeds like the soybeans and canola. They are going after those things in the seed that they don't have it. But we have a perfect combination of those things, and we know the flax seed overall is already a good product out there. So for us to bring in new items into our new traits into the seed, I think that shouldn't be our priority at this time, because we have a great product and we should get into the market with the clean product, like with the non-traffic, non-GM product out there, and it will take care of everything else. As I see, like, as Will have pointed out, the studies we have done through the industry with the Flax Council of Canada and going forward, we have seen great effects of using flax both in the human as well as the livestock feed. So I think we are in a good shape. We don't have to, we should keep a track of what's happening in other parts of the oilseed industry, but at this time I think we have to concentrate on getting our system straight, and the product we have is better than anything out there. Do you have any more questions there, Linda?
Sorry. The last question that I have on the queue is, if I use certified seed this year from non-CDC varieties, i.e. if I'm planting an Ag and Ag Food Canada variety or a Viterra variety, do I need to plant certified seed again in 2014? Will, would you like to address that?
Sure, Linda. As you know, the Flax Council of Canada recommends as a best management practice that farmers use certified seed each and every year. However, under this program, if you are growing a non-CDC variety with certified seed in 2013, there would be no requirement to plant certified seed again in 2014. Of course, we do encourage people using farm-safe seed to follow the procedure, have their seed tested, have their production tested, and carry on all of the best management practices that they can to ensure that they have the very best of quality of farm-safe seed going in the ground in future years. So that includes things like segregating the production from each year, making sure your equipment is as clean as possible, using, if you're not cleaning your own seed, using seed cleaning plants that are following a proper risk management protocol in terms of ensuring that no outside triffid is introduced into your seed supply.
Thank you, Will. We don't have any more questions at this time. If there is, you have a few moments to get them in. We would like to ask a little bit more of our participants in that we would like a little bit of feedback as to how the webinar went. Did we provide enough information? Was it able to be in a manner that we were clear, we could be heard, etc., etc. We would also like to, as Will said earlier and Dave said, that this is a completely voluntary program. Compliance is based on awareness and understanding. And so for those of you that are on this particular webinar that are extension specialists, work with farmers, we certainly encourage you to ask us any questions that you have or refer questions to either SAS Flax, Manitoba Flax, Flax Council of Canada, CCAN. We're all there willing to assist in any which way that we can. We will continue to work on our communications campaign to advertise to farmers, to do a lot of things. One of the things that we will be doing this summer on July the 25th is having a field day in Indian Head so that producers in the area can not only come and learn more about the reconstituted seed issue, but we also will be having some of our varieties that are nearing registration will be there so people can see what's happening in the flax industry. I would like to thank you all for joining, and I would ask Dave that as a producer representing flax growers in Canada, if Dave would like to have the closing comments.
Okay, thanks, Linda. As we said, rebooting the flax industry is vital to moving forward to get into a non-testing regime into the future. We're probably only going to get one chance at this. If we don't do it right in the planting season of 2013 by asking producers to buy certified seed of the non-reconstituted varieties, and then again in 2014 to ask producers who want to use the reconstituted varieties to do that in 2014 and completely seed the 2014 crop to varieties that are zero for testing for the triffid event. If we don't get it right and we slip up, we could be stuck with this regime for a lot longer than any of us want to be in it. One question that was asked was there a fact sheet or a source of a single source to get information from? There was a publication mailed out to all registered flax producers in Saskatchewan and Manitoba this winter that talked about the whole issue of rebooting, using the certified seed. That's probably a good source, and it can be obtained on both websites, or all three websites of the flax producers and the Flax Council. That's a good publication to have in your hands, and I'm sure we can work on getting a single sheet if that's desired by the specialists and by the agronomists and advisors that are in the agriculture community. Again, I can't re-emphasize we need to get this right. We're going to get one chance at it. All of the industry has worked hard, from Helen, who tested the breeder seed plant by plant, to the seed growers who committed to seeding this reconstituted seed on virgin ground, if you like, or 5-year out of flax, who committed to the protocol that was put in place by CCAN. Now we need to ensure that our producers reap the benefit, and the ultimate benefit will be to get to a place where we don't have to test seed. When we were in Belgium last week, the Europeans were very interested in what we're doing in 2014, and I think that's going to be a watershed as to whether we can move to that non-testing regime that we're all hoping to get to. So with that, I would thank everyone for attending the call, and hopefully we can have better growing conditions here in eastern Saskatchewan than we've seen, but with the piles of snow that I see out my window, it's going to be another wet one. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you to all of you that have participated in our webinar. Have a great Easter weekend, and hopefully we will have a normal melt, not too much flooding, and we'll see some flax going into the ground this spring. Take care.
Thank you.